Welcome to episode 351 of the DFO Rundown, presented by Bet365. Download the app today and use the promo code NATION, NATION, to get in on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, lots of games in the NHL. Of course, you have the second round of the NFL playoffs. I guess we can call it the quarterfinals, division champions, whatever you want to call it. Either way, should be great. Lots of options at Bet365. I'm Jason Gregor. We welcome in Frank Seravalli. And Frank, in your state right now, there is a state of frustration, I would guess, in the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tristan Jarry placed on waivers. Yes, no one's claiming him at 5.375. He's got this year plus 3 more on his deal. And hey, I get that Tristan Jarry hasn't played very well, but the Pittsburgh Penguins have one of the worst goaltender environments, according to Kevin Woodley. And the numbers don't lie. 6 of the 11 leaders in goals against 5-on-5 reside on the Pittsburgh Penguins, including Carlson and Pettersson at 1 and 2 and Sidney Crosby at 4.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what happens when you add Erik Karlsson and Ryan Graves to a blue line that had Chris Letang on it. I mean, a lot of this comes back to, and I wrote a column yesterday on dailyfaceoff.com looking back at the first calendar year of Kyle Dubas' tenure as Penguins GM, which started 18 days after he said we wouldn't see him pop up with any other team when talking about his contractual situation with the Maple Leafs before he ended up being fired. And look, I think the strangest part about the reaction to the column was, well, I get the usual, like, oh, here's a guy from Philadelphia dumping on the Penguins again. Like, ask the Flyers if you think I'm a Flyers fan. I promise you the answer you'll get is no. I have no allegiances to anyone. I call it as I see it. And it's just a point by point factual timeline. There's not even any additional commentary added in there. To say that Ryan Graves doesn't have a single point this year and he's an untradeable asset with the term on his deal, there's no reach there. There's no opinion added. Ryan Graves is an untradeable asset. He's already been put in the press box this year as a healthy scratch. I'm not sure, how you could look through that point by point basis and say that Kyle Dubas has helped the Pittsburgh Penguins. In fact, he's done the exact opposite, and that team has been set back and damaged even further than they were by the Ron Hextall and Brian Burke regime.
Well, I don't even know what the plan is, right? That to me is the question. Like, if you look at Pittsburgh and say, okay, what's their plan? Like, I have no idea. I honestly, it's, you know what? Everybody knew they didn't have a very good team when he took over. And it was like, oh, we're going to add Erik Karlsson. And like suddenly that's going to solve all their problems.
It's not just add Erik Karlsson. This is the other thing the Penguins fans were replying back with. Oh, well, look at all the contracts he was able to get out of in that deal. That made it worth it alone. The biggest problem with the trade is that you gave up your first round pick in the process and then failed to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That pick, which you haven't had many of, would have been the best one that you had in a long time. And the Sharks were able to leverage that and turn it into Sam Dickinson, who has 49 points in 28 OHL games this season as a defenseman. I'm not saying he's going to be a future Norris Trophy winner and be Erik Karlsson, but my God, could you imagine if the Penguins had a prospect like that in their system right now and how different things would feel if they didn't have a $10 million anchor on their salary cap for this season and the next two in Erik Karlsson, who, by the way, very predictably came from San Jose to Pittsburgh and saw his points drop 45 points year over year.
Yeah, well, that was never. He wasn't doing that. He wasn't going to have the 100-point season. That was an unreal year. It was great for him, but yeah, it was not.
He's also not what they needed. Did you look at the Penguins before and say, we've talked about this a million times on this pod, where we both were in agreement before the season even started last year, this is not the guy they needed.
No, not at all. So And even if you look at goals against per 60, because Carlson does play a ton, he's played 850 minutes at 5-on-5, which is a massive amount in today's NHL. If you look at the guys, goals against 5-on-5 per 60 amongst players who play at least 400 minutes, the Penguins still have 3 guys in the top 10. And then if you look at on the other side for teams that are going well, and a team that's red hot right now in Columbus, they've got 3 of the top 4 leaders in goals for per 60 in Marchenko, Monahan, and Voronkov, right? Like they're a team that's scoring lots. Now they give up some, like they're not getting as great a goaltending as they would like, but they're scoring a boatload of goals. And that's really different. They're in the playoff spot because they can score. And if they ever get some goaltending, which they did in their last game, then you're like, hey, maybe they can actually finish off this Cinderella run. But when I look at Pittsburgh, honest, the question is like, where do they go from here? Right? Like he says, yes, well, you know what? I'm not going to compound my, the signing. I shouldn't have signed Jari. And it's like they're throwing Jari like he's the only problem in Pittsburgh. And I found that to me is utterly delusional. If you think Jari's the only problem, can he play better? Without question, 100%. Yes, he can.
He was the scapegoat.
Yeah.
And I think, guess what? I think all the players in Pittsburgh yesterday, and I traded messages with a couple of them, felt the same way. Yeah. That they felt like it was disappointing that that's the way that it played out.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, though. Where's the accountability? How come through almost a decade now in an NHL front office and 8+ years as an NHL GM, how come Kyle Dubas is immune from criticism? How come he doesn't like, so if you were to like, let's just take a second and unpack what his tenure looks like as an NHL GM. What could you point to that you would say, this is really impressive?
Nothing. I
can give you 2 things. I can give you signing Michael Bunting in Toronto. That was a solid move back when. And the other one would be drafting Matt Nyes.
Yeah, Nyes being a great player. Yeah, that's fair.
But outside of that, like I think a lot of people, it's lost on them that he inherited Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander. And his first step as GM was to sign John Tavares to a deal that jammed up their cap for a while.
Yeah. And forced him to have to overpay those other guys, right?
Well, that's a whole separate side issue. It's not overpay. It's also give them the exact term that provides them ultimate leverage at every turn.
Yeah.
They seem to cave at every point. So 5 playoff appearances, 5 really good regular season teams in Toronto, and 1 round 1. And again, a whole chunk of that's on the players. But then the Penguins fall all over themselves and give him one of the richest and longest deals ever signed for an NHL executive. The reports at the time were 7 years and $40 million. And then this is how the first year of his tenure goes? Why is there no critical thought here? It's almost like because people think you're smart, then therefore you always have the label of being smart, no matter how many dumb things you do.
Yeah. Wow. I look at, like, you look at the Penguins, and to say Tristan Jarry, like, his numbers are virtually identical, Frank. Like, it can't get much closer. So he started 21 games. He has an 886 save percentage, 3.31 goals against. Alex Nedeljkovic has started 18 games, 3 less. He has an 886 save percentage and a 3.4 goals. So slightly higher, 3.31 to 3.4. And Tristan Jarry, anybody as an outsider, or even anybody who watches the Penguins, to think that it's only Jarry is so beyond ridiculous. So your solution is, hey, we're going to play Nedeljkovic now, who has the exact same save percentage, slightly higher goals against, but it must have been those 3 games difference. Like, I get the salary. I understand the salary cap's different. And I'm not excusing Jarry.
But you signed him to the contract.
Yes, 100%. And then to throw him under the bus, I'll say this about Tristan Jarry, Frank. I won't be shocked at all that Tristan Jarry maybe he gets bought out, maybe they trade him and Pittsburgh has to retain half, that he goes somewhere else and puts up solid numbers. Not great, but puts up solid numbers that where he's in an environment that isn't an absolute tire fire and a turnstile in the defensive zone.
I could see it. I mean, look at his career numbers. Mike Sullivan is on record saying it, that he believes in his bones that Tristan Jarry is an NHL goalie.
Yeah, and it's the position. Like we all know, it's the most volatile position in sports. And you know what?
His previous 220 starts prior to this year, save percentage of .912. That's over a 5-year run.
Yeah.
That's a pretty large sample size as far as NHL goalies go, 220 starts.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they made the wrong decision to do something now, because I think they have to do something, but let's remember the person who ended up executing the deal and a host of other ones that got themselves in this spot. That's all. It's the same criticism that would be levied against any other general manager in that position, bar none.
Oh,
we would dissect it all the same exact way.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree wholeheartedly. Like if you look at that time period, Frank, of goalies in the NHL who started 200 plus games, right? Tristan Jarry. So in that time period that he's been in the league, right, since from 18 until last year, Tristan Jarry is tied with Thatcher Demko and Marc-Andre Fleury in save percentage at .912. That's 9th best. And his 2.70 goals against average comes in at 12, right behind Markstrom, just ahead of Bobrovsky, Binnington, Demko, etc. So that's who he was for all the career until this year for 21 games. 21. And you're telling me that he's suddenly this poor after 21 games? Give me a break. Scapegoat is the polite word of what they're using. And I think they're like, oh, you know what? Our fans are going to react, and either they're going to be mad or they're going to be like, yeah, Tristan Jarry's the reason we suck. And you'll be blinded. Any rational fan should take a step back and realize that it's far from just Tristan Jarry. Not even close. I've said it before, Frank, and I'll repeat it. Man, you're like Sidney Crosby's on a sinking ship right now. Sinking ship. It ain't going anywhere.
But if you want to then celebrate the next set of moves that he made the second year, I love Kevin Hayes, but did anyone think bringing in Kevin Hayes to one of the slowest teams in the league was going to be a solid move? Okay, no. You take a flyer on Anthony Beauvillier, fine. No harm, no foul. He's been okay. Not great, but okay. Matt Grzelcyk, 1-year deal, sure. At least there's been no term given, but it's hard to argue that the Penguins today are in any different spot, if not worse. They're in a worse spot than they were a couple years ago when Ron Hextall was ousted.
Oh, they're in a worse position in my eyes. I don't see how anybody can think they're in a better position.
They got through another year where they didn't make the playoffs and didn't have a first-round pick. It's the worst of the worst.
Yeah, like it's going to be a long time before the Penguins get like. If
that's why he was able to sell them on a 7-year contract for himself. But the problem is, if this is his track record of transactions over an 8-year period of time now, that was the reason for the column, was to say, I'm not sure you'd want this guy. What has he shown you from a talent evaluation perspective that he should be the guy to then conduct a rebuild, a full-scale rebuild?
No. Well, they locked in, right? Is ownership going to get rid of him for that long term?
I'd be shocked.
Yeah. So they might, you might want to look at something else or let us know what the plan is. Cause right now I have no idea what the plan is. A few other things. Hey, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Frank, the story just continues. Zach Werenski's playing unreal. He had the 2 goals. They win it in a shootout. Really sick, cheeky goal by Marchenko. If you didn't see it on the highlight reel, love that play. But the Blue Jackets are a team that has a lot of belief right now, and they got a lot of guys injured. They got like 4 or 5 regulars out, and they just continue to battle. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. Like, honestly, they are the best story, the most unexpected story in the National Hockey League this year. And it's getting like, it's, Montreal, they've improved more than I think people thought. So that's good for them. But Columbus, because of everything that happened right before the season began with the unfortunate passing of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew, that this is the story that I think, and I could be wrong here, but I would think most other fan bases are like, I'm kind of rooting for Columbus here. Like, I got my team, but I kind of root for Columbus.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say not only are the Blue Jackets the best story in the NHL this season, they're the best story in as long as I can remember. This team, who, like, honestly, their own, I would bet you that their own front office and coaching staff did not have expectations anywhere near what they're doing. Then you add in some of the injuries that they had and that you mentioned. Guys have been out for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Goodbranson's been out since October 15th. Boone Jenner out 5 to 6 months. That's since October.
Yeah.
You tell me, like, that's your captain and a pretty important piece on your blue line. And by the way, their goaltending has been below average, well below average. Their team save percentage is .884. They're doing it in spite of that. All-world season from Zach Werenski, on pace for 93 points. Kirill Marchenko, where did this come from?
Buddy, he's a player, man. You watch him, like, he is a really good player. Like, the more I watch him,
he's already beat his career high by 6 points, and we still have half of a season to go.
Yeah. But it's not just like his overall game, to me, is what's impressive for Marchenko. Like, go look I think he might still be leading. I got to double check it. But he has the best goal for percentage. He's like at 70, which is mind-blowing number. A mind-blowing number for a guy who plays that many minutes. And he's been outstanding for them. Like, I'll double check it. But last time I looked, I thought he was at like 70%. Something like 73 goals for and 40 goals against 5-on-5. Like,
Dmitry Voronkov, he had a great rookie year last year. 18 goals, 34 points. He's already got 17 and 30. Again, half of a season to go, and he missed 10 games this year.
Yeah. 48 goals for Frank, only 19 goals against for Kirill Marchenko, and he's played 653 minutes 5-on-5. Like, those are unreal numbers. He's, a shot for percentage of people think, oh, it's just expected, is 57. His expected goals is 57. Like, he is having a really, really good year outside of just offense. He doesn't get scored on. Doesn't get scored on at all. On a team that gets scored on, he doesn't get scored on. So that, to me, is what's impressive for Marchenko. And yeah, I hope it continues.
Do they do it? Can they pull it off? Can they? So we were looking at the odds yesterday, and I think Tyler, and feel free to pop in, Tyler. They mentioned, or the odds have the Blue Jackets at still a sizable long shot to make the playoffs. So if you're a gambler, that might be some real value on Bet365. I think, if I remember correctly, they were at plus 550 to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Like, I look at, there's Boston, Ottawa, Montreal. I'm not sure, like, the Rangers, God, I don't know if I have them there. We'll see, maybe. But, like, Detroit kind of showed me, and Todd McClellan basically told everybody what was going to happen before that San Jose game. He came out, after the Seattle game. I didn't really like how our players played. And I thought we were really loose and sloppy. And then they have a mandatory day off. Then they come out and, they gave up 6 goals to the Sharks, which is hard to do. And so, the Red Wings had that great run, but I'm more of a believer in Columbus than I am in the Red Wings. I'll say that.
You're more of a believer in Columbus than the Red Wings.
Yes.
Even though the Red Wings demonstrated last year that they can be in the mix all the way till the very end. Like, they've proven it already that Columbus hasn't.
Yeah, but it's only about this year. Last year to me is meh. Columbus is such a different team, such a different culture now. With like they've shown they can deal with adversity. I think right now, like they're a very unified group. Frank, I think it's a tragedy like that occurs, and it's going to go one of two ways. And thankfully for Columbus, it's gone the positive way. Like this has been a positive motivator for them. I think it's you see how they talk about one another. They've showed their emotions. I think there's a lot of strength in that.
I totally agree. The power of that is evident. Are there any other, and not to dive into the playoff race again, is there any other threat? For me, it would still be the Rangers.
Ottawa for sure.
Ottawa or the Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rangers, man. I don't know. I gotta might put a moratorium and not talk to them until February because it's give us a few weeks to see what do they do here. So to me, I'm kind of fascinated by that. If where they're going to go, because my goodness, if they don't make the playoffs, hey, we can talk about Pittsburgh being an unmitigated disaster. What about the Rangers missing the playoffs this year? How much of a failure would that be? You go from the President's Trophy to missing the playoffs with, lots of caps. You got a lot of talented players on your team. God, what a disaster that would be.
I feel like anytime I watch the Rangers, I need a very large block of ice and a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah, imagine what Ranger fans feel like right now. Oh, they gotta be fired up, man, because that's gotta be very, very disappointing. Few other things last night. I'd like to know if there was another player in NHL history who scored his first career hat trick by never actually shooting the puck into the net. If you missed the game last night, Ryan McLeod, great speed, by the way, blows by the guys racing for the puck that hit the post. It goes to shoot it, and Brent Burns comes back, slashes his stick, shatters it, and because it's an empty net, they rule it a goal, which is in the rule book. And so Ryan McLeod gets credit for his first ever hat trick, and he never shot the puck in. And if you look at it, see in the NHL now, Frank, if you watch on the score sheets, if you get an own goal, now it's Luke Hughes, those power plays, PK, 5-on-5, and then OWN, because he had an own goal the other day where the defensive team shoots it in, taking a soccer term. And for Ryan McLeod, it basically had awarded beside him.
So it's the first time in NHL history that in a 20-minute period, because this has happened twice before, since the NHL began logging this in 1965-66, it's the first time it's ever happened in a 20-minute period, because before it's happened in overtime. The other two games went to overtime.
Where the guy got his first hat trick awarded to him?
No, not a first hat trick, but got a goal awarded on a shot.
Oh, okay.
On a non-shot.
In overtime?
Sorry. By the way, it's the Sabres were the only they didn't have a shot in the period, right?
Right. That's what's okay.
That's the other part. It's not just that it was the hat trick. It's also that they didn't have a shot in the period. Yeah, that's happened twice, two other times, but
okay.
Not necessarily.
They didn't have the shot. Okay.
Right. Yeah. In a full 20 minutes.
A guy getting awarded a goal in overtime. I'm like, who the hell's pulling their goalie in overtime? Okay.
Yeah, so I explained that really poorly.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So they didn't have a shot on that because they hit the goalpost. Anybody who watched it, they fired the length of the ice, hits the post, Cloud comes in. Don't get a shot on goal.
That's one of my favorite things, actually, coaching minor hockey, and you're on the bench and you're right near the scorekeeper, and it's some like mom or dad for the day. They're like, "Hey, was that a shot?" And like, did it have a chance to go in? No. All right. Well, then it's not a shot.
Yeah. Oh, the posts. Yeah. So, I just thought it was rather comedic a little bit for sure. So,
well, let's bring in the toothless smile from Ryan McLeod too is what made it.
Oh yeah. Well, he'd gone like 26 games without a goal, or 24, right?
That's a way to break through.
Hat trick. So, the relief of scoring once, it's real, folks. It is real. As we welcome in Tyler Yaremchuk to the pod. Ty, how you doing?
What's up, boys? I am doing good. Ready to roll with a new edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Just to give you guys some of those updated odds you were talking about. The Sens are kind of call them runaway favorites on Bet365. They're minus 170 to get that last playoff spot. Columbus has moved up to plus 400. Detroit is plus 750, and the Rangers are surprisingly plus 180. Like, the books are still giving the Rangers kind of a lot of respect here. I would imagine
surprising. I don't think that's surprising at all. I still think they're the best team in that muck. And by the way, if you look at the way the standings are shaded because of the fewer games that they've played, their points percentage is like they're like 2 wins away from matching the Blue Jackets in points percentage.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they're not as fight. Maybe it's just perspective, right? Because I mean, things were made out to be so terrible, or they got so terrible for a while, but people forget they were 12-6-1. So even with that bad stretch, they still are 20-20-3, dead on 500 on the year. All right, I got a couple of buy or sells for you guys. Let's start with this one, a rumor that was floating around the last couple of days with John Klingberg. A couple of Canadian teams apparently rumored. I'll say John Klingberg does sign in Canada. Buy or sell, Frank?
I would buy it just based on the teams that are interested. Ottawa, Edmonton, Toronto. That's 3 right there. I mean, if there's 5 or 7 teams that are interested, you're already just a math equation.
Well, then that's 50-50. That's why I thought it was a good buy or sell.
And I could see Dallas returning to Dallas making sense for a whole host of reasons, including comfortability. And the fact that Dallas has a serious need in a right shot defenseman. Am I convinced that John Klingberg is going to be an impact piece? Absolutely not. But at the same time, I don't really see the harm in trying. And if you're going to try, sign him sooner rather than later and get this ball rolling so that you can have an answer and still give yourself plenty of runway before the March 7th deadline.
I will buy. I'll say this though, like, would you go back to Dallas? Like, I just wondered, do you have major regrets from walking away from that contract offer that they
But that's
offered
your
you?
own fault, not the Dallas Stars' fault.
I know, that's what I'm saying though. But do you want to go back there and be like, every time you walk into that room, God, I'm gonna be making $7 million right now.
He's
making
doing that
$775K.
anyway.
So
He's doing that anyway. I'm telling you, I think more than anything physical, that's what has ruined John Klingberg's career, is the shattered confidence of having an offer like that on the table and bypassing it, thinking you can get more on the market, and then absolutely playing poorly afterwards.
Yeah. I will buy, I guess, and he'll go to Canada. But my big question is like, well, what's he going to be? That's like, if it's John Klingberg from 3 or 4 years ago, you're like, oh God, yeah, he's a top 4 defenseman, really mobile, walks the blue line incredibly well, pair him with a solid defender, and you're really going to like your D pair. But how mobile is he going to be, guys? Like, he's coming off of hip resurfacing surgery. How mobile can he be? And I know he qualifies for a bonus-laden contract because of how much of the season he's missed, right? So all of last year, played 14 games, hasn't played a game since Remembrance Day of 2023. So I look at it, and if he's going to come back, is it going to be one of those weird bonuses? Oh, after 10 games, he gets $3 million. Like, man, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, you better not be doing that. You saw I didn't work with Connor Brown, and it just puts you like, you don't need bonus overages the next year. So well, I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out.
Here's the other thing. If I'm a team like the Oilers, I'm saying to John Klingberg, we will give you ample opportunity, but we're signing you to a straight up prorated $1 million deal. And if it's about the money for you, you need to recoup some money, by all means, go somewhere else. But this is what we're offering you. We are the Edmonton Oilers. We are a true Stanley Cup contender, and we'll give you a chance. And if you play well, everyone's going to see you because we're going to be going deep in the playoffs. And if not, go get it somewhere else. Yes. Because you might get a better deal somewhere else, but you might not get better opportunity. So it's on you. The Oilers have to squeeze and use the leverage that they have, as opposed to giving a cupcake bonus-laden deal for no reason, just to compete with other offers. Get out of here. We're the Oilers.
Everybody knows, if you watch Edmonton, where he'd play. He'd play in the second pair with Darnell Nurse, and Darnell Nurse is having an unreal year. So if you're John Klingberg and you want to have success, is there a place where, and not only you playing with Nurse, you're going to play a lot of 5-on-5 minutes with either McDavid or Draisaitl. Like, there's no other team that offers that. So there's lots of things to look at. But yeah, you might get a bonus if it's playoff based and success on that. I could probably live with that. Right?
I don't think you can't offer that. I don't think.
Oh yeah,
it has to be.
Corey Perry had it, right? Corey
Yeah.
Perry got an extra, based on 500 grand if they go to the second round. He plays
You mean
50% of the
playoff
game.
rounds won? The games played, that part ends in
Yeah.
the playoffs.
No,
in the regular
rounds
season.
run, but he has to play half of the games. It's a
50% of the
combination of
game.
both. Yeah, that's what was in Perry's deal last year.
All right, next one I got for you guys. Frank, you got a couple of Chicago Blackhawks on your board, and Ryan Donato and Taylor Hall. Things are not going well in Chicago. There was that video going around of a dejected Connor Bedard in the locker room. But the question I had for you guys, buy or sell on the Hawks moving off of at least one player with term ahead of the deadline. Some candidates could be Jason Dickinson or even Connor Murphy, who I know is hurt right now, but on the back end, he's got one more year left. Greg's buy or sell on the Hawks moving someone with term ahead of the deadline.
Oh God, yeah, they'll trade almost anybody there if they get a good offer. I think they would do it for sure. So I'll say I will buy all day long. I think Connor Murphy's a player. I know he's banged up right now, but Connor Murphy, huge defenseman, right shot D, which lots of teams are looking for. He's got 1 year after this, so I could see that being an option. Some team, if they're not happy with their goaltending, might think of a Mrazek. I know he makes a lot, so that's kind of tough. But I just want to say one other thing. People in this video of Connor Bedard being dejected, like, is he the first guy who hasn't made the playoffs in his first 2 years in the league? Like, what the hell are we doing? It reminds me of people saying, did you see Connor McDavid? He looked really sad at the draft lottery. Like, shut the hell up. These are like, give me a break. Yeah, Bedard's pissed off. His team sucks.
It'd be weird if we would be having whole other videos about, like, how weird is it that Connor Bedard's happy when his team is getting shellacked?
Yeah, he didn't look that. He looked honest. Like, hey, geez, it's pretty tough right now. We're not going very well. Like, what's he expecting? Like, their team's not good. And it's not going to snap their finger change. They don't have enough talent to compete. And newsflash for Connor Bedard and all the Hawks fans, it's not changing instantly. This is a long play, baby. It's a long play.
What was the shittier take of the week? Was it exactly that? Like, when do we need to start being worried about Connor Bedard in Chicago? Was it that, or was it when someone said earlier this week that they think that it's not a foregone conclusion that Connor McDavid is staying in Edmonton? Which one was it, honestly?
Oh, wow.
What about the most clickbaitiest bullshit that you've ever seen in your entire life? Informed speculation? Informed by who?
Yeah, there's like his wife just opened a bar in Edmonton, for God's sake. Which anybody who's opening a bar in 2025, man, I give you a lot of credit. Like that, you're committed to the community when you want to do that. There's like, yeah, come on. He's that's the easiest one. I guess I might even have to say that one, but both are like, we've heard that it's so the amount to me. I look at this. Anybody who says Bedard and you're worried about him leaving is because you internalize you're a quitter. And the minute something's hard, you're going to give up because that's how you look at it. So you project that to everybody else. Connor Bedard's not a quitter.
It's not no different than McDavid. Like the premise was, if the Oilers don't have success this year, like what? They got to the Cup final Game 7 last year. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, they're the best team in the NHL in their last 41 games. They started 0-3. Since then, they got the best record in the league. Like, stop.
All right, last one I got for you guys. It ties into what you were saying earlier, but you guys mentioned just how much term Kyle Dubas got on his deal to be the Penguins GM.
I didn't even get to answer the question, but go ahead.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it's all right. It's all good. I don't need to. No, he answered it for me. It's just hysterical. It's the first ever buy or sell that we had where I didn't actually answer the question. Go ahead.
So either Murphy or Dickinson could move, right, Frank?
Yes.
All right. Then I'll come to you first for this one. I'm going to give you two options. You got to buy on one of them. Penguins make the playoffs. Kyle Dubas no longer GM. Which one happens first? Because he has 4 more seasons on his contract.
No, he's got 5 after this.
Oh, yeah. This is only his second actual season.
Second season of a 7-year deal.
I was thinking, geez.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, I'm going to say Kyle Dubas gets the gate before the Penguins make the playoffs again.
Yeah. They're not close. And trust me, like Ottawa is young team. Columbus, Buffalo eventually will be more competitive. Like they're not going in the right direction at all. Like
let me provide a little context. Not only are they not close, but the pain hasn't even begun yet.
No,
you haven't even begun the strip down yet.
Yeah.
And who are you going to replace in that strip down, like Rutger McGroarty, I watched him skate. It's not there. He doesn't have it. I'm not convinced he's an NHL player, and that's their top prospect.
Yeah, that's not good. Let me then, Frank, play a little you be the book, Bet365. If you had to put odds on that kind of a prop, Penguins playoffs, Dubas out as GM. Obviously, you're saying Dubas out is the favorite. So what odds would you put on the playoff one? Plus 200, plus 300?
Yeah, plus 250.
Plus 250. All right, there you go, boys. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Buy or Sell.
I just want to correct myself. Ryan McLeod had gone 23 games without a goal, but then he scored 2 games ago, had 3 points. He's actually had 2 3-point games in his last 3 games. Had
big
3
reason
points,
why the Sabres are 6-3-1.
then none, and then he scored 3 points here. Hat trick last night to the probably like since Bobby Clarke, there probably hasn't been that memorable of a hockey grin from Bobby Clarke to Ryan McLeod. When every time he smiles, and he's a really smiley guy. He's one of the nicest guys you'll meet, Ryan McLeod. And so his grin reminds me a very different style of player than Bobby Clarke was, but similar toothless grin for him for sure.
So let me ask you another question since we brought up the Sabres. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was watching the Vikings playoff game as Sam Darnold somehow reverted back into Sam Darnold. And the lower third on the screen was Vikings are the oldest team in North American major pro sports history that has never won a championship. And so I was thinking about this, of all the teams in the NHL that have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, Vancouver. Among those teams of let's just even add in some more recent teams, of the teams that have not won a Stanley Cup. Who do you give the best odds to win first?
Ooh, God.
So also included in that category, I think,
so we're thinking anybody who's played like 25 years plus, or just the ones who've never won.
Yeah, I mean, but like I would include the Winnipeg Jets in that category, and the Minnesota Wild, and
Columbus,
Utah, San Jose, Nashville.
Ooh. Because right now today, Senators, I guess, would be in there too.
Yeah.
That haven't, they've never won, but the Leafs haven't. The Leafs have been longer drought.
Yeah, I know the Leafs are longer than all of them.
Can we include them? Yeah, that's a good question. Because none of them. Well, the Leafs are the closest, obviously, today. I guess.
Are the Leafs closer than the Jets?
Oh, yeah, fair point.
I don't know if that's. I don't know if that's.
That's probably valid. Well, I will say, I think this year though, the Leafs are in an easier conference. I think the top dogs in the West are tougher overall, but because you look at like 5 of the top 6 teams are in the West right now in points and points percentage. So
this involves some forecasting, right? Like we're not just talking like this year or next. We're talking like the next 5, 7, 10 years. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Wild.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're going to have all that free cap space, right? And Bill Guerin has proven he's not afraid to make some moves. He's made some really good moves. Like you just look at Jake Middleton and Brock Faber on their back end, and those 2 moves alone, and what you had to give up to get those 2 players.
So the future of your blue line looks like Faber, Bouillon, and David Jiricek. You can sprinkle in a Middleton there. You've got Wallstead in net. You've got Kirill Kaprizov just entering the absolute heart of the prime of his career.
Matt Boldy, Rossi.
Is there a better team? I mean, I would say, here's the thing. I would go Minnesota 1, Utah 2. Would that shock you?
Well, Utah definitely has the younger prospects. At some point, I got to see, do they know how to win, right? Can they figure it out? So, yeah.
So is the Canucks fan listening to this going, you guys are way out to lunch?
I would put Vancouver ahead of Utah because of Quinn Hughes. And like, he's not old. Pettersson's not old. Now, maybe he's not there, but if they trade him, my goodness, you got to get something. Yeah. But the other team, honestly, who's got lots of players that are still younger, that are Ottawa. I would look at Ottawa too, right? Their owners going to do everything. They're building that new facility. It's state of the art. That always helps, right? Players. I don't really care your location much. You have the best facility and your team's competitive. That always helps. So I might put Ottawa ahead of Utah. Like, I think Tim Stutz.
So,
really
so what's your ranking? Like, give me your top 5 in order.
Okay,
and I know we're doing this just totally off the cuff.
Yeah, I'd go Minnesota.
Oh, so you agree?
Yeah, Minnesota I like a lot. Vancouver, Ottawa, Utah, and then my wild card is going to be based on nothing other than pure emotion, and I'm going Buffalo.
I have zero empirical evidence to point to.
But yeah, okay. But here's the thing on Buffalo. If you actually now what Buffalo needs, Frank, is they need to get some experience in their organization and management. And because this will be 14 years they don't make the playoffs, right? And the thing that they have to figure out and figure it out properly is what it actually takes. Like, to get out of this cycle of losing, you really need to understand what it takes to win.
But and how do you not have the Jets in there though?
Yeah, I guess I could have put the Jets in, but hey,
and not for nothing, but like, I'm going Sharks before I'm going Sabres right now.
Why? Because
you think I'm crazy? Player? No, not one player. Like, we just talked about Sam Dickinson earlier in the episode. Like, you start to smash a bunch of those things together. They've got a Askarov. He could be something. Like, if I'm picking a team to build around right now, if someone said to me, you're getting hired as the GM today of one of these two teams, you've got offers from both on the table, which one are you going to step into? Sharks or Sabres? I'm taking Sharks.
Okay.
You're not?
It's close, but I probably lean to Buffalo. I just like, I don't know. I like the fact that I'm going into a hockey mad community there. I like that. It's
did you miss what the Shark Tank was like when that team was good?
Oh, hey, I know the Shark Tank was great, but I don't know. There's just something about
20 years. It was like one of the best environments in the league every night.
Yeah. Something about Buffalo that just is. I don't know, I like when they have all the pitchers in Buffalo and you got the snow coming down. It's very, I don't know, it reminds me of hockey. I would enjoy it more. I could take my kids tobogganing, so I'm taking Buffalo.
Okay. I just don't know what to do with the Jets. And how long is their window open?
Well, the Jets probably have the best chance in the next 3-4 years. But then, then you kind of got to retool there. But that's the thing. Like, they got a world-class goalie. They got the best goalie in the league. So that's going to help them. But sadly, the best goalie in the league didn't help them last year when they got steamrolled. So maybe I'm a little bit leery of that. So
Winnipeg gets drafted really well when they've gotten their picks.
Yeah. Like, they need a second line center, Frank. And if they get a second line center at the deadline, they're going to be a tough out.
At one point, and I was thinking about this yesterday as we were talking about Connor Hellebuck on Daily Faceoff Live in the Hart Trophy conversation. Like, he's the runaway Vezina winner. But if Connor Hellebuck stumbles again in the playoffs, when does the criticism grow as loud as it does with the guys in Toronto?
That's a fair question. I think they'd have to do it multiple years. I think
really, you haven't seen enough already to say, hey, he hasn't been that great in the playoffs.
Yeah, like last year, it wasn't just him. It was that whole team. Like, oh my goodness, like Jets, that's a horror film, Frank. If you wanted to see a horror film for a fan base, to watch those 5 games. Like, it was just unending. Sit on your heels and just get blown by the Colorado Avalanche. Like, I don't know if I've seen a 5-game series that was that lopsided in favor of the road team to start the series in Colorado. Like, oh my goodness. Like, remember that? Like, dude, they scored 28 goals in 5 games.
That's 2 years, 2 series in a row where he had a sub 900 save percentage.
Yeah.
The best goalie in the world. Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable in 2018. That run to the West Final.
He was great against Edmonton when they swept him, right? When they won 4 straight.
Yeah, and his playoff numbers beyond that are all good. So, but I'm just saying 2 years in a row, best goalie in the world, sub 900 save percent. At some point, I'm not predicting it. I'm just, the claims and criticism will grow louder. That's just fact.
Oh yeah, no. If they have another one, for sure, I would agree with you. If it goes again, definitely. So, and I'm sure, like, Hellebuck would be the first one. The thing I liked about Hellebuck was he's like, you know what? I don't, because I remember I talked with Kevin Woodley, broke down those games. He's like, a lot of those goals weren't really like awful goals. And Hellebuck afterwards, like, you know what, the crazy, he was like, I actually thought I'd been playing pretty well. And sometimes you'll say that to convince yourself, but like, man, McKinnon and Rantanen and Makar, like, it was literally, Frank, it was like a track meet, and Winnipeg just was like, oh, we're just let these guys go as fast as they can. It was utter domination. They had no answer to it.
Isn't that still one of the weirdest series ever?
Oh, it is.
Didn't Winnipeg crush them in the regular season?
Dude, Winnipeg was the best defensive team in the league by a long shot. And then in 5 games, it was just like, oh my God, we don't know how to play defense. We can't stop them off the rush. We're just going to let them wheel through the neutral zone shift after shift after shift. And hey, McKinnon and Rantanen are pretty good. Pretty good. So we'll be fine. Like Colorado still, hey, do you look at Colorado, the numbers they're getting from Blackwood, all of a sudden, hey, they're the two, the Pacific, Edmonton and Vegas, you got Colorado and Winnipeg. Dallas is really rolling, throwing Minnesota. If Minnesota's healthy, they're a tough out. That's what I'll say about. Although my concern with Minnesota right now, Frank, is they don't score enough as the big dogs. And we saw if you got to be able to score to match those other teams. So you can't win every game. You can't win in the playoffs 2-1 all the time. You got to win some games, but you got to be able to score. And the Wild got to get some offense. Like, obviously not having Kaprizov, but even when they had him, he's a little bit of a lone wolf as far as offense goes. That's my one concern about the Wild. Like, if I'm then, I look at Winnipeg, second line center, the Wild really need another top 6 forward who can score.
Yeah, I agree. Couple quick things. John Tavares on IR. So that's a blow.
Yeah, got hurt in practice. Brutal.
Yeah, that was rough. And Anthony Stolar is back on the ice today for the first time since December 12th. So that's good news. Yeah. What do you make of the Leafs? And just quickly on the William Nylander comments, because it feels, it's not abnormal for every single word that comes out of a Maple Leafs player's mouth to be dissected, but felt like that was kind of a misstep.
Yeah, you're not going to say, I don't know. I don't get too blown up about it. Actions always speak louder than words for me sometimes. I think, they're in, obviously there's no team that's under the microscope more than them. They've played really well. They're in a little bit of a 3-game lull right now where they haven't played very well. So if it extends to 8, 9, 10 games, I think you got reason to be concerned. I wouldn't, I know that they're going to overreact in Toronto, but I'd probably try to calm things down a little bit now. Right now, what's funny, Frank, is you got Montreal-Toronto this weekend. It's always a great rivalry. The Habs are kind of going. That game's going to have a little extra juice in it. Should be a fun game. It's always good when those two teams meet. But, this one, Montreal's coming up. They're playing great, and Toronto's in a little bit of a funk. Should be a fun game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Hockey Day in Canada, by the way. So shout out to all those who'll be celebrating. Canmore will be hosting it this year. Beautiful, picturesque mountain town. Anybody who hasn't been there, you're missing out. Highly recommend Canmore. It's a beautiful place to go. Unreal. Go there in the winter and go on a dog sled tour. You will not regret it. It's phenomenal.
And how did Hockey Week in Edmonton go?
We lost in the semifinals last night. Tough. Know what? I was super proud of my kids. They played unreal, and the other team's goalie, man, that's the first game I think ever in my life up till this age where the other team's goalie kind of stoned you. Usually at a young age, eventually, you find a way to score, and he played unreal.
You guys got goalied?
Yeah, I kind of got goal. Nah, he just played really well, and our guys, man, couldn't bury him. But some games you're like, God, I really like our effort here. We have the puck a lot. We're winning battles. It's just didn't happen. So that's gonna happen. Boys they were happy with their effort, but obviously disappointed with the result. But hey, it's a lot of fun. It's a good tournament. A lot of kids get fired up for it, so it's great. I'm still blown away that your season's almost over in 3 weeks. I'm just
we're down to the final stretch. I think we have 4 regular season games left. We've got a tournament. We're going to Lake Placid next week. And other than that, we've got 4 games and playoffs are in one weekend. I think by February 23rd, our whole thing's done. Done.
So when you go to Lake Placid, I've never been there. Is there like a massive, like, I don't know, like a hockey museum? Because of course, Lake Placid, 1980, you know, the greatest, you know, American hockey story ever, I think, to this point.
Wait, do you know anything about it or no?
No, I've never
About the
been there. Like, do
facility?
you take the kids there? Do all young American hockey players want to go to Lake Placid?
To be honest, like, I mean, my son's 10, so no, like he had no idea what it was until I showed him the movie Miracle, and that's like appointment viewing for anyone before they go.
Yes.
But the facility itself, you play, like, every team is guaranteed to play one game in the tournament in the 1980 Arena Stadium
Okay.
on that same ice. So there's the Olympic Center, it's called. It's still a big facility. They've got 3 different rinks in there. So the tournament is all held in one location. And the best part about it is every hotel in the little village, they're all walkable to the rink. So you
Okay.
basically park your car for the weekend on Thursday and you don't move it unless you're driving to the ski hill or to this, you know, whatever it is that you want to get into.
All right. Okay.
Bars, restaurants, hockey store, whatever it is that you're into, all right there, walkable.
Okay. So sounds like a good place is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. Well,
And they do it right. They've got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
outdoor skating oval where they had
Oh.
the speed skating. They've got the lake that's frozen if you want to do the dog sled thing. There's tons of things that you can do.
Hey, before we let you go, who's more nervous? Yaremchuk or Sarah Valley? Bills, Ravens, Eagles, Rams. Who's more nervous?
I mean, given that the Bills are entering as the underdog on their home field,
Yeah, shouldn't you be
I'd say
nervous?
their butthole should be puckered in Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
Tyler says
Tyler's
nervous,
right into
but
these
not scared.
nervous but not scared.
I'm gonna say not nervous at all. I think the Eagles throttle the Rams. I think Eagles
they-
win by 10+.
They did throttle in that first game. What did Saquon ran for like 250 yards or something?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now the Ravens, man, they're a load right now. Lamar, and then you throw in Henry. That's going to be a tough game. Both those games should be excellent. The Saturday games, I think the number 1 seeds are winning fairly easily. But the games on Sunday, I think, are appointment viewing. Check it out at Bet365.
But here's the question for Tyler: if the Bills lose to the Ravens, is this season just a total failure? You don't
Not if
even
you
get
ask.
it- You don't even get a shot at Mahomes.
Yeah.
No, because coming into this season, people were saying this was supposed to be like a rebuild year for the Bills, right? So it's like, I don't know, the perspective changed as the year went on and they played so well, but coming into the year, no one picked them to win the division. So this was supposed to be like a reset year. I won't be, I mean, I'll be heartbroken, but I won't be like super pissed if this isn't a Super Bowl year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, right? Like, I think like the Ravens are really good, man, and so are the Bills, but the Ravens are really good. Like,
Yeah.
that's
I'm betting on the
Well-
Texans.
The Eagles did
400.
beat the Ravens this year.
I don't
on
think the
the water.
Texans have any. I think the Texans get blown away.
Yeah,
She
I
just-
agree.
It's been a
The
long
Chiefs
time.
are heating up, man. Now the Chiefs Ravens, because
That
I'm
would
picking the
be a game.
Ravens too. Sorry, that'll be a game. Awesome. And then if you have the Eagles, that'd be like the 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2 in the AFC and the NFC. So that'll be good. Awesome. Get in on all the action. Use the promo code NATION at Bet365. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll chat with you Monday.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.